All right, thank you. My name's Alex Hyde, and I'm the manufacturer of NeemAssist, which we're going to go over. But real quick, before we go over NeemAssist, mostly I also own Green Dance Ag, doing pretty much what Clint does, helping put programs together. And I work primarily, not all, but mostly with organic and regenerative farming. And we have actually, I would say probably 90% of the farmers that I work with individually are using OraBoost along with us. So, because that's your guys' organic approved version. So, very good results. Very good results with that as well. We love that product. So, so real quick before I get into this, I want to all the way back from the very beginning when you were talking about that missing puzzle. I'm pointing to you. When you were talking about that missing puzzle piece, okay, I got a real quick story on that. 2 weeks ago, we were putting the puzzle together as a family because my girls got tons of puzzles for Christmas. And usually one of my girls loves pulling a puzzle piece out and putting it in their back pocket so they can put that last piece in. And we were putting a puzzle together, and I had noticed that nobody had done it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to pull one out and see what the girls say when it's missing. And so we were putting them all together. We got down to like the last 5 pieces, and one of the girls picked one up, and she's sitting there waiting, and we got down to that last piece, and she puts it in. And I'm like, wait a second. And I reach in my back pocket, and I'm like, no, there's still a puzzle piece there. And I'm looking in the puzzle, and there's not a piece missing, okay? Not a piece missing. The puzzle piece that I had wasn't even a duplicate to anything in the puzzle. It was to something completely different and had been put in that box. So I did not buy a lottery ticket that night, but what's the chances of that happening? The joke ended up being on me, but Point to that is we can look really hard and try really hard to do everything right. We can try to do everything right in our programs, and we can really search for, really delve into, what did I do right or what did I do wrong? And sometimes we overanalyze things, okay? And so we got to make sure that we don't overanalyze things to the point where, we get off track, because it can really, really easily happen. Okay, so, yeah. Anyways, joke's on me, and we was talking about that missing puzzle piece. I'm like, I know where it is. So Neem, how many people are familiar with Neem? Yeah? How about the organic guys? You guys ever use Neem, work with it? Has it always been a pain in the butt to work with? It's not very fun, is it? Not very fun. So, first of all, I want to talk about basically where does it come from. Well, the majority of neem comes from trees as attracted to India, and that's where most of them are coming from, is India. Okay, there are other tropical regions that have the tree, but for the most part, it's in the mahogany family in India. Grows a little fruit, a little bit bigger than a peanut. And there's a lot of different ways to extract oil, but the best way is to be cold pressed. So a lot of you guys probably know neem is like trying to use it as some kind of insecticide or fungicide. Probably most people know it as more being used for insecticides. And I wanted to give a little bit more on, there's actually a lot more to neem than just being a natural insecticide / fungicide. So as being cold pressed, it can benefit soil in many ways. Okay, so you can see the full list of what cold pressed neem has in it. It has a lot of different minerals, a lot of your main minerals in it. All right, and they're all bioavailable because they were already in a plant as it was. So being cold pressed coming out, you're getting 100% bioavailable nutrients. I'm going to skip that part because we're not anywhere near close to time because of mouth of the Midwest over here. Um, Neem contains very, very many rich in fatty acids. Okay, so why are fatty acids important to the plants? They're some of the main building blocks for the cell membranes, and that influences how a plant is functioning. So they also help protect against pathogens like liminoids, which we're also going to talk about here in just a minute. And they help in the storage of carbon and energy, which we've talked about over and over and over again today, right? Definitely one of the absolute most important things, right? Calcium and carbon, and without them, we don't have a lot of biology, and without the biology, we don't see very good results in the field. So, Neem actually contains the omega-3, 6, and 9, which feeds a lot of the beneficial microbes that eat it. So, rich in liminoids. Okay, liminoids also help microbes as well, more indirectly, because I'm going to move this here for a second so I don't actually step on it and break it, and then I'm going to have to give you mine. So they're rich in liminoids, and liminoids are natural pesticides disrupting cycles. And azadirachtin, being the main chemical within neem, is a liminoid, and that is one of the main chemicals within neem. There are actually multiple, but that is the main chemical that is more of that anti-feed and what gets you for your insects. So liminoids also contain antioxidants, which are crucial for protecting against cellular damage and the ROS, reactive oxygen species. So, which I don't know if you guys know about that, but we could go over that later if anybody has questions. So, NeemAssist specifically, in general, we have it's made up of neem and a couple other of oils, along with some essential oils. And again, like I said, most of the time we are, using it within other passes, right? If you're going out to make a foliar pass, we have farmers putting it in then, and we are running it along with Boost because Boost is a fantastic surfactant. So even though in our neem we do have a natural emulsifier and surfactant, but we still run it along with Boost. I think somebody over here was asking about how long, like pre-vam or whatever, was there any residual, right? Neem does have that. Okay, so neem, once it gets into the plant, which neem goes systemic into a plant, it's how it works. It doesn't really work on contact like what pre-vam does, right? But once it gets into the plant, anything that's really like eating and sucking on that plant, which is why we don't see neem really hurting beneficial insects, right? Because most beneficial insects aren't hurting the plants. They're actually getting the insects that are hurting the plants. So neem will be in that plant on average roughly 21 days, 21 days, okay? Sometimes we see it a little bit more, sometimes we see it less, depending on what the weather is doing, but in general, usually it is right around 21 days. So you see a pretty good residual. And if you can have something in there for 21 days, if you think about an insect's life cycle, in general, most of them are fairly short. So if you can get in at the right time, 1-2 passes at the most, and you can get through that insect's life cycle. So I think Ben talked about this a little bit earlier. We did specifically a corn rootworm trial along with Bavaria from Jab of the Carolinas this year. This was a trial done in Wisconsin, and I don't know if you guys how well it shows up, but anyways, we saw some very, very good results this year. So this was, again, 8 ounces of neem with an ounce of Bavaria in furrow, and you can see yourself basically, where feeding damage went to for corn rootworm. At the end of the day, the yield showed it significantly. I know we don't really have numbers on here, but basically we went from 148, 150 bushel per acre in the check to 198. So pretty significant boost with not a whole lot of input there. So I guess just to conclude real quick, the neem oil can be used both in furrow and as a foliar. I would say we're growing more is using it in furrow, but I think that the majority of our people still use it as a foliar. And unfortunately, I can't get you farmers, which I am one too, so I'm guilty of it, but can't get us to want to be preventative. We always want to be reactive. And trying to get that in up front, we can use a lot less of it, and we don't have to really use too much of it. And neem is one of those things where you want to use it in moderation. I think that's also been said multiple times today, right? Is everything in moderation. And this is just another tool in the shed, okay? Again, there's a lot of benefits from it besides just thinking of it as a pesticide, and I think that shows really well in what we saw this year in the corn rootworm trial. Also, azadirachtin, besides being a natural pesticide, fungicide, azadirachtin itself actually works very heavily on the microbes, the bacteria that convert nitrogen over, okay? They suppress them. And because of that, there's actually a lot of studies out there that show that conversion of your ammonium nitrogen being converted very, very much slower to get to that nitrate, which is the soluble form that your plant can actually take up. So it really works to help be that more slower release, which is, I think, why we saw that, an extra boost in that trial this year from going from just, 150 to 198. That's not just, cutting down the pressure from the insects. That's also because we boosted the microbial life in that soil. And again, adding, more fungal organisms like the Bavaria is always going to help. So, yeah, I think I pretty much got everything that's there. Any questions? I think I'm gonna. Clint's back talking again, but I was supposed to be going over the refractometer a little bit more. I think we're gonna forego that today, unless somebody has specific questions on the refractometer. How many people actually use a refractometer? Anybody in here? Oh, just a few. It is for as cheap as what these things are, guys. I mean, you can get online and buy these things. $50, maybe $100 for a good one, a really good one. But I mean, they're a pretty cheap tool to be able to go out. That and a garlic press. Get yourself a garlic press so that you can put your leaves in there and see what your sugars are doing, because your sugars in those plants are really going to be a telltale of where your soil health is, and soil health is what's driving that plant health. So even though I'm the maker of a bio pesticide, basically, I still absolutely promote soil health over using any kind of pesticide or fungicide. It is absolutely key. So, yeah. Yeah, so what you're saying is, I think, is it helps it stay in suspension when you start mixing it in water, right? So that is one thing that neem has had a very big problem with over time, right? And I think most people who have worked with it are like, well, it's very thick. It's very thick. It's almost like molasses, and honestly, at 60 degrees, it's like peanut butter. And let's face it, 60 degrees is where we're a lot of us are planting already, at that point, right? So, we've we've really worked with the formulation of this. Thank you for bringing this up, but we have an emulsifier in this already. Okay, so you wouldn't actually need to mix your soap in there with it. It's already part of it. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, absolutely, it makes a difference for suspension. With ours, we've actually gotten it to the point where we don't have to pull water anymore. I think you could ask these organic guys that work, but a lot of times they're used to having to try and pull water ahead of time. They have to think about what they're going to be doing in the days ahead. They have to pull water, put it in poly tanks, sit it out in the sun for a few days so that that water can warm up so that they can use it with some of their products. And this was one of the products that was like that. And we've gotten it to the point where we can actually mix with groundwater. So usually groundwater is coming out somewhere around 55 degrees-ish, somewhere in there. So yeah, I think we've solved quite a few of the problems from that side. And we stay in suspension very well. Obviously, you can see this was actually mixed in August. I think if you look at a lot of different neems, you'll see that they actually separate. They start separating over relatively short period of time. And we're not, due to processing, we don't have that anymore. So